Welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. Apologies once again for me being out last week. I was out having a good time at a concert. I have returned to a wealth of information coming in from Rare. I'm going to try best to cover that, but I'm not going to be doing it alone, as this week I have none other than Caleb to join me, as we're going to be talking about season 15, season 16, story stuff that's coming out, the new season 16 stuff that they put out as far as like the cannons and stuff like that. But we're also going to be talking about how loot is distributed. It's a really interesting concept of like where you get stuff and how that is obtained in Sea of Thieves, and what they could probably do maybe in the future to try and make that a little bit easier for folks, especially if they're working on specific things. So stay tuned for that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. But before I get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They are the ones that are supporting this content. They are paying the bills. They are the producers of the show. If you want to be one as well, you can head over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast, as we do have the Keelhauled episode coming up. Let me take a look at the actual like calendar date here. That is going to be coming up on this coming weekend is going to be it. I'm also going to be having an interview with a Rare dev that is going to be happening that week. So I imagine there is going to have to be some approval process. So that interview may be coming later on, not necessarily when I actually get to record that, but it is because of the patrons showing their support, showing that they want to have this kind of content and sharing that on social media, that this kind of stuff can happen. So thanks to all the listeners, thanks to all the patrons. But before we get into any of that, I want to make sure that I call out the names. So thank you to A-Chick, L-Cute, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Captain Longsharts, Choppers 918, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Godhammer 6, Carl Embo, Kylia the Aficionado, Kyler B, Nightstar 1980, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Ors, Xbox Mike 29, Rabid Raccoon, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Rust Belt Kid, Shoe Daddy 13, Skamelt 666, The Demon Jester, Tommy D, TN Professor, Vaporwave, Vibralux, Wailing Witch, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, the lore chronologist, Deadeye Dre, who had some very interesting takes on some of the recent videos that came out, Heger Owl, Jeff H, Captain Duckweed, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Luke Lore the Insipid Ghost, and Zam Wow. Thank you all so much for your love, for your support. It really does help take care of the bills here for the Keelhauled, as well as just life in general. So I'm going to be looking at upgrading some equipment in the future, as I have done so in a little bit, and put that towards streaming and just making my work life a little bit more comfortable, trying to get some of that going. But thank you so much for the patrons. It really does take care of the bills. So I appreciate all of the support that you give. With that, let's get into it. Give a countdown and then a beep. And if you want to clap after the end of the countdown,
sure.
And then I'll sync it up later, but it'll do a 3, 2, 1 beep.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Keelhauled Podcast, episode 367. This week is going to be a pretty hefty episode because we've got a lot to talk about, and I am doing so with none other than Caleb, who's going to be joining me to talk about not only season 15 and how that turned out, but some interesting topics that I think do need to get addressed within Sea of Thieves. But we also have a bunch of news that came out as a result of season 16's imminent launch that we want to cover as well. In some aspects, we neither of us have actually been playing on Insiders at the moment, so we really don't have a whole lot of inside info to try and talk around. So much of our discussion is going to be retrospective, critiquing, and speculative at best. So, but before I get into any of the news, I have to welcome Caleb. Caleb, it has been a hot minute since you've been here. I'm curious, how you been, buddy?
I've been great. Thank you so much for letting me come back on the show.
Yeah, it's good to have you. This is it's been a while, and while we haven't quite seen you release more than just a couple episodes of Tide Blazers, I am kind of curious. Do you have an ETA on episode 3 of the Tide Blazer podcast?
I forget the exact time. You can remind me if you remember. I think it was 1.5 years in between episodes.
Yeah.
Based solely on procrastination. Like, I had all the audio. I am willing to commit to releasing episode 3 next week. I have it almost completely edited. I literally have to add a few sound effects.
Oh, cool. I was 100% not even like expecting that as a real answer. I was just kind of tossing it out there.
It was ready. It was at this state, which I could release it if I didn't want to add just a couple things, touch-ups. I the week after I released the last episode, I really got into an editing groove.
Nice. It's nice when that happens. So it's the first episode came out September 19th, 2023.
Oh boy. 2023.
Episode 2 came out in March 15th, 2025. You've got time. There's no pressure.
Listen, I don't release episodes of Trailblazers because it takes forever to get a bunch of people together to record. The true challenge of getting 4 grown adult men's schedules together,
yes,
is tough. This one was just procrastination, but I got it. The next one's gonna be good. I think I think each episode is literally better than the last. We've infiltrated the Reaper's hideout. We're gonna wheel. We're gonna deal, and we may see a little siren action.
I think it'll be very interesting to have that episode release during season 16 for reasons that I won't go into. But if not, it's fine. You have till 2017 or 2027. Sorry.
We're starting to get into things that I think if you're a real enjoy the Sea of Thieves lore, you may be able to catch a twist that happens in the next episode before it's revealed at the end of the episode.
That was I don't think you could get that was like Mike Chapman levels of eluding without saying anything.
No, I don't want to spoil.
As I think you can get. We've got a lot to talk about.
Well, I'm not actually Mike Chapman because I didn't say stories.
Stories. The world is a living, breathing. We actually got a Sea of Thieves. I don't know if you know this. I wasn't expecting this. We actually got a 30-minute Sea of Thieves podcast that came out last week. That I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, hold on.
we got the one. Like, calm down now. No,
relax. This
is. I take a week off, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna release an episode just to cover that. So
it's a good thing, Logan, if I can interrupt you briefly, is that whenever you and I do our episodes, they're usually very short. So luckily, having also a bunch of other things to talk about, for the first time ever, we could probably do a long episode.
That's true. Are you buckled in? I have roughly 6 hours. So
I've told you before, I'll stop when you make me. I've got caffeine. I'm ready to go.
Oh man. So right off the bat, I think it would be good to kind of stay chronological with what's been going on in Sea Thieves. You wanted to come in towards the end of season 15 to be able to speak on it, because I think that overall there have still been quite a few issues with I would say like the game stability. They obviously had to shut down Hourglass for a while there.
Yeah, sure.
Because of some of the issues. But season 15 came in and invigorated, injected a whole bunch of content in the form of Hunter's Call being expanded to a proper actual like faction. So I'm kind of curious, like, where did you have a place that you wanted to start with season 15 as a retrospective?
I enjoyed I enjoyed in some ways the grind of Hunter's Call. I think you'd lie if you were saying that you don't enjoy the grind in games if you play Sea of Thieves in any manner of trying to complete anything they give you. And I enjoyed in the past getting that legendary hunter, sitting with friends, making friends, and catching fish. And so when there was going to be a Hunter's Call update, I was wondering if I could it's a crime really to try to recatch a feeling, an event, how you felt in a moment in time. It's always a mistake to do. And I was like, ooh, I wonder if we can do that. And then when this came out, they really sort of, I don't know how to phrase it. They sort of took away, in some ways, what made the the Hunter's Call unique, and then sort of tried to put it into the template of other trading companies. Hey, now they have a thing at the outpost. Now there is some of the generic voyages of earn this much money, sail this many miles, complete 250 voyages, get to the grade 5 this many times, dive to the voyages, turn in 50 of the faction treasure, that sort of deal. They really sort of try to standardize, I think is the word I'm going for. And I was a little disheartened at first. I was like, oh man, they kind of took away. It'd be kind of cool if Hunter's Call remained in sort of the way Reapers is currently, maybe not going in the future, its own unique trading company, not part of those main three. But as I dove into doing all the tasks and sort of analyzing, we could talk a little bit about later, analyzing where loot comes from the Sea of Thieves and how voyages are designed, it still has retained, I think, a lot of its identity.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I think the hunt for the Megalodon is the one that really, to me at least, speaks to what the Hunter's Call is all about, given the origin and the nature of Merrick and what his life led to, him having like 2 peg legs. It was always kind of I guess he's dead now, huh? So what his life ended up surrounding, or some.
Wait, hold on. Is he a peg legs in as a ghost?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they
does that
gave
make
him...
sense? I don't know if it does.
I mean, how do ghosts get formed in general? Also,
listen, my character can have a peg leg and then have his leg back at any given moment. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, the fruit of Sea of Thieves is a wondrous thing.
Yeah.
But looking at Hunter's Call and the voyages that we gave us, we got the 2 voyages for the expanded quantity of fish, treasured fish to be able to fish up. I actually really like those voyages, as I think they're a lot more straightforward for fishing than kind of the original, like how you had to figure out what to do or the kind of circumstances in which to get fish naturally without like any kind of like, back before we even had like the names on top of them to kind of remember those remember those days. So looking at like the treasured fish stuff, I love how they've kind of like built out that one random voyage that they had like in a fishing expedition thing like a year earlier or so. But I do think that like hunting down megalodons and the ancient megs themselves really speak to the Hunter's Call, like going out and actually hunting these monsters.
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Absolutely. At the beginning, that's where I was a little disheartened, because the new voyage, I'm like, there's not even a lot of accommodations tied to this specific voyage. Like with the fish, it was, catch X amount of each of the fish, and even the rare fish of each kind of fish. And this was just nothing tied to the types of fish. It was just, I forget exactly the combination tied to that. Maybe it was catch 50 in general of any of them. And then, of course, 250 voyages. And I was like, oh, wow, this isn't really all that interesting, because it's they piecemealed out the season. And then you're saying the Meg voyage, that's when I was more reheartened, when the Meg voyage came out, and in some ways the Boar voyage. I'm like, here we go. I mean, I'm sure many people suggested hunting animals as being part of the Hunter's Call, and being able to say, I want to go out and have a megalodon fight and not have to RNG it. To be able to choose to have a megalodon fight is also pretty cool, I think.
Yeah I was because you've completed all of these, if I recall.
Most of the accommodations in Hunter's Call. I still have just a few left.
Okay.
The pristines, everybody's got the pristines.
Yeah, yeah. So that was something that I definitely want to, if we can remember to, I definitely want to talk about.
I've sent you some notes, Logan. We're going to be talking about it.
Okay, good.
It's on there.
It is in the docket, if you will. So kind of talking about Hunter's Call, do you think overall they have and I'm not even going to take into account the fact that the latest event that we had for the Hunter's Call, like where we had we had those different types of the special voyages, why those aren't just natural additions to the Hunter's Call faction to me is beyond me.
Yeah, actually wouldn't be a bad idea. At least the cooking one. The other one was just kind of like, hey, it's the same voyage, but there's more of them. Whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah, the cooking one was an interesting
cooking
concept.
one was a fantastic one. I
like the idea if you need someone to be undercooked, if you're doing like a sushi, the charred ones needed to be overcooked. That was pretty clever.
Yeah, it reminded me of like, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where it's like you have to go out and get different monster parts and fruits and stuff, and you just kind of you toss them together and hope for the best and whatnot. But in this sense, it's like you just had to have the ingredients. It didn't matter if you delivered them to a different NPC across 3 different seas. Somehow the ingredients still made it to the same location.
I tell you what, if we heard the Breath of the Wild music when you were cooking, I'd cook more.
I'm of two minds of that. I love it, but I also can't stand listening to it when I have to create like 4 or 5.
Like 500 in a row. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if I could listen to that many times. It was a little annoying. I would definitely skip after a while. Looking at Hunter's Call as a whole, I think they've done a great job crafting more unique voyages that still offer a sense of familiarity to stuff that they've used in the past with adventures or other faction voyages. I would say that Hunter's Call, for me at least, has been a win. I've enjoyed going out and getting the emissary grade up. I find it is exceptionally easy when I can, cook a round of captaincy meat to work on the emissary grade while sailing towards like a dive to a boar voyage and doing three boar voyages to knock out like grade 5 before I go hunt down ancient Megs has been cool. I like that the ancient Megs are the emissary voyage that is for the Hunter's Call compared to just getting a straight up voyage as if it were like a Gold Hoarders or Order of Souls. I like that there's something that is then revealed as the result of being that level of emissary, kind of like with Reapers.
Yeah. Again, it was instead of doing a standardized here's a voyage to go now the Meg you're hunting is now the ancient Meg. They kept it letting it have a little bit of a separate identity. I like that a lot too. And the ancient Megs are really, really cool. Far be it from Caleb to ever tell us not to complain and take any opportunity to complain. But I'm still playing Halo Infinite, and it's a game that is in some ways on life support. And when something comes out, people complain always because it's not enough. And I'm here going, hey, I'm glad we're getting literally anything. Now, I'm not saying, fawn over the big company for they're giving you their scraps. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm being a realist in this case, whereas I'm sure there's some pressure to just stop doing anything for Halo Infinite or to keep it just on the thing of just keep releasing new cosmetics. But we're still getting new weapons. Now, the new weapons, you could tell that they were based off of like one gun was based off kind of the model of another gun. They did that twice in a row, and they didn't get like all the functions the other guns got. People were like, "Oh, obviously they kind of not as much effort was put into this as in a brand new gun." It's like, yeah, we still got something though, didn't we? Obviously, there's somebody there very passionate who still wants to give us stuff, and he's working in the limitations he's been granted. He knows they don't have the resources; they're not going to let him make a brand new thing. He's like, but he's able to pitch it. Hey, but what if we use some of the stuff we already have to make this easier? So I'm gonna put that here to Sea of Thieves. Yes, the Meg voyage is kind of like the Lost Shipment voyage. You go to a couple places until you get to your final location. Yes. We can all agree on that. If you want to criticize that, sure, fine. Completely valid. I'm still glad we got it. I think it's a lot of fun to hunt the Meg, even if it is kind of samey as the Lost Shipment in tracking it down. Even if when you do track it down, I seem to be going back and forth to the same spot and then end up fighting the Meg where I kind of originally started.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've ever tried to chase a farm animal in a pen, there's only so many places it could go.
Yeah, that's a good point. But what I'm saying is that debris was definitely not there, and I passed by it earlier. I'm sure of it. The ancient Megs, I think, are a lot of fun. There was the fact that they're two different. That there's the armored one, and that stuns you and brings up. I've always wanted to have the ocean crawler spawn on you, so it's good to have that back since the tall tail. That's cool. And the fire guy. I mean, it can get out of hand if you don't have a good crew, or especially towards the beginning when I was still learning them. I definitely sank solo slooping against that fire Meg. By the time I put out the fire and repaired, I was hit again. I was like, I'm in a loop. I'm dead. There's no chance here. Until I don't know if they nerfed them or if I just got used to them. But I think they're a lot of fun.
Yeah. I was out fighting Big Red the other night. Had 12 harpoons and or spears. And I swear I must have missed a bunch because I was sitting there and I went through all 12 and I was like, this dude is not dead yet. Either my aim is off with these spears or this is just taking a lot more than I was expecting.
I can tell you Big Red, which is a great name for him because he is very spicy, is got more health than the Barnacle Dread. Because the Barnacle Dread, I did a lot of math, a lot of CS sciencing. And when you get rid of the armor, he's got less base health than the red guy. Oh,
interesting. I affectionately call them Big Red and Barney.
That's great. Barney's also purple. I think there's some purple in that Meg.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yep.
But those I think that's really cool. It's a great grade 5 reward. It's a bit of a shame that when you kill it, it's very thematic, but they do drop a lot of either Ashen or Barnacle stuff that has nothing to do with Hunter's Call, and you're having a grade 5 Hunter's Call just to be able to see them on the map, unless like today you randomly come across one when you did not want to. Caleb's infinite complaint. Just give me 10 seconds worth to say it, and then I'll shush. The numbers tuned way too high for the commendations, the amount of time it took to get all the Barnacle Dread stuff, even reducing the pristine. We can talk about pristine later, but just it's still oofta. The numbers are always so high. I understand some of it's consistency. If it's 250 voyages for every other company, then it's going to be 250 voyages and 1,000 miles for this one. Sure.
Yep.
Okay, I get it. But I don't know how they haven't at least figured out where things need to be in the case that they quickly nerfed it. And isn't that like 4 times in a row where they've released a new content and quickly nerfed the numbers for it?
I haven't been keeping track, but it is a trend. I would say more often than not, it is more interesting. I don't mind, like, so for example, I'm still working on Horn of Fair Winds. I think I'm down to like in the 30s or 40s left of the number of ones that I need to turn in. But for all intents and purposes, it was never so much an issue of how many I needed to turn in, which I think even they even nerfed the number that you have to turn in, didn't they?
Way down. Yeah, that's down. Right.
So like the number that they have them at now, I'm okay with, because I feel like it's 100 is a reasonable number. Given how often you come across them, but they also made it so that they appear on beaches, they appear in shipwrecks.
It's a huge way of making it way easier. Was that
I think that is where I feel like I don't mind the grind when I'm like, if I'm sailing by an island and I see something greenish, kind of bluish glowing in the distance, that's when I'm like, oh, this is cool. That might be a horn. And then, you hop off and you go find out, yes, it is in fact a horn. Then you're like, okay, stop the presses. We can't put the newspapers out yet because we just found a horn of fair winds. So
but we're only sailing away. That's fine. I'll be right there. Burn.
That has been something that I've absolutely done. I have absolutely shot out to a shipwreck while someone was like sailing the ship away. Just to go see what they had in there. There's a Horn of Fair Winds. I'm like half an island away from, or half the distance between one island and another. The other one that I needed to go to was Galleon's Grave. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna motorboat my way to the outpost
Sure, yeah.
and turn it in that way. And funny enough, sharks very fast, a lot faster than I anticipated. You get to the beach and you're sitting there with a depleted horn of fair winds, and you're looking at the water, and you've got 3 bruises on you, and you're just like, this is, for one, impressive. Thank you for giving me this bit of data. 3, frightening that you're all here and land sharking it at the moment, because I'd rather you not. But yeah, I think the which kind of gets me into the idea of kind of the overarching theme that I think is a very, very good critique of Sea of Thieves that we may not need to necessarily get into the bulk of it right now, but at least how to obtain some of the different items that came in as a result of the expansion to the Hunter's Call faction. It predominantly, the pristine items seem to be the ones that are the harder to obtain and not very clear as to how to actually get those. So that's where I feel like some of these commendations, to get back to the point, may feel a little exorbitant in how many you have to actually obtain. Because I feel like if you were to have a little more consistency in how to actually get those, like if the percentage chance was tweaked after, the initial kind of, like, I think anytime a season releases new loot that has a drop rate percentage, and you see this with other games that do this as well too, like Destiny 2, World of Warcraft, things like that. They tweak the drop rates after the content is no longer relevant in the time frame that it was released, to try and add a little bad luck protection to stuff that people may not necessarily be trying to grind day one as soon as it's coming out. Have to get it, like, they're the ones that are willing to put in the effort and the work. And then there's catch up mechanics in other games that I think that Rare has kind of learned from in some cases, especially with like the Horn of Fair Winds, that I'm curious to see if we jump into season 16, will things like the pristine boars tusks or the pristine teeth and scales for the megalodons, will those turn into voyages that will then be direct access to those types of or at least a higher percentage chance of those coming as a result of voyages that you put down, as opposed to what feels like, in my case, a better chance at getting a pristine scale from a kraken than an actual megalodon voyage, which I thought was complete hogwash when I found out about that.
Absolutely. I need to be diagnosed with something, because I spend a lot of time completing this garbage and learning all the special techniques and the cheeses and how to grind for things. And the best way to get pristine items right now is to find, I don't know what you call them, hovels, where all the boar's den, whatever you want to call that little spot. Yeah. That's the best way to get pristine items.
Yeah.
You hop on Safer Seas, you do a rotation to certain islands, and there's always 5 pieces of loot. And if you see 4, that means one of them is a tooth, and it's just buried too deep for you to see it. It's a tooth or a scale. Or a tusk, and you dig it up and you hope it's pristine, and that is the best way. But for that, it was an interesting design decision to have the animals you encounter in the wild drop something more valuable than the one for the voyage. You do the boar voyage, or you do the meg voyage, you get guaranteed grizzly items. If they're in the wild, for the boar, it's a guaranteed grizzly tusk, but for the meg, it's not a guaranteed grizzly item, nor is it a guaranteed item. You might not get a tooth or a scale from a meg. I think it would do a lot to treat. I think they were kind of right on the board track, and I think it would do a lot to improve it if it was guaranteed, even if it's still RNG, whether or not you come across the meg. If you knew that, hey, when I kill this, it's guaranteed to drop a pristine tooth or pristine scale or both, instead of a grizzly or not at all. The boar does it that way. Why not the meg? I think the boar feels a lot better. I have the pristine boar tusks because I could go out and find them. It wasn't double RNG. It wasn't the RNG of finding them, and then the RNG if they're going to drop them. It was just the RNG of finding them, which is fine. I'm kind of fine with that.
Yeah. It's I think that was something that was definitely kind of rubbing me the wrong way when I was like hearing the methods of obtaining some of the pristine items for like the megalodons. I was like, it doesn't make sense to me that the standard megalodon that is just kind of roaming about the world does not have a loot table that keys into the faction that it originated from.
Right.
And that was one of those situations where I was like, I'm not sure why I have more luck getting pristine items for megalodons from random kraken encounters than I do fighting actual emergent megalodons. Like I can understand the megalodon voyage giving me grizzly scales and teeth, but if emergent boars are the way to obtain the pristine items from those, first off, I don't like that. I'd rather it be a voyage that's just harder and there's more boars that you have to then take on.
Sort of like if it was the Ashen equivalent. There's no Ashen merchant things except for the I think the cargo and the lost shipment. But there's no Ashen animals. There's no Ashen scales. Instead, they did the pristine. So yeah, if it was the same thing, harder to get, just like the Ashen is and worth more, that makes sense. But they went a new direction. They went, is this something that you encountered on purpose from a voyage, or is this something you randomly came across? Which is, I think, one of the first times we've seen that, if not the first.
Ooh, I'm trying to think if we have run into. It definitely feels like the first time that they've locked commendations behind emergent threats that are tied specifically to a faction. I can't think of, because even with the skeleton ship stuff, when they did the ghost fleets, those were originally a world event that they then turned into a voyage to get those items.
Yeah, I guess there's always, in the case of the one you just gave an example of, that is a world event that can also be a voyage. Before they came up with raid voyages, that was the case.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes it an outlier. And in that case, the difference was that you'd only get Order of Souls items from the voyage, and you wouldn't get the Wraith balls. But the Wraith ball was tied to like one combination that didn't give you anything.
Yeah,
it's a different scenario. This is, did you encounter the voyage or encounter it in the wild? And if you encounter the wild, you get the better thing. But yeah, I guess to be repetitive, it'd be nicer if it was a guaranteed drop, like it is from the boar for the man.
Yeah, and I with the megalodons, I'm even okay if they wanted to increase the difficulty to bring it like a little bit above where it is right now for the emergent ones, because I think that some of the fear of some of these monsters should be something that is persistent across the board, because at the moment I'm okay if the threats are scaled per ship type, but I don't fear regular megalodons anymore.
They did make them harder, like they attack more frequently, but of course they're balancing for, I don't want to crush a new player and dishearten them because they didn't know what to do versus the Meg. And now, what do they say? Fear is the anticipation and the mystery of a thing. Once you know everything about it, if you play any scary game, just die at some point. Just purposely die, and you feel way much better because now you know, okay, here's what happens when I die. Here's the consequence.
Yep. That is, honestly, I'll speak to Sea of Solitude was a game that I played a while ago, and there is a megalodon-ish type of creature in that indie game, and it is a very like, it hunts you down if you fall into the water, and that was terrifying for a very, very long time. I had a really hard time playing through the game and not constantly like trying to get out of the water as soon as I could. Then I went to go check out the achievement list. Guess what one of the achievements was?
What?
Die 50 times to the creature. So there was at one point where I finally was just standing on the edge of a ledge, and I would hop into the water and I would wait for it to come and eat me, and then I would wait for the reset, get back into the game, and then just fall off the edge again. And I had to do that 50 times for this achievement. By the time I was done at the 50th time of getting eaten, I did not care. It did not frighten me. It didn't bug me that this thing was coming, because I was like, it's just going to slow me down at this point. I'm not scared of it anymore.
Isn't it funny that water creatures are the spookiest? I remember playing Banjo-Kazooie, and there's one level, like a pirate level, and if you got into the water, crackers, it wasn't crackers, it's got to be snackers or something like that. A shark would come and get you that was almost unkillable. It was terrifying. In Amnesia, a very kind of seminal, scary game, there was an invisible creature in the water. You could only see it because it would splash around as it chased you. That was terrifying. But like you said, you die to it, then you're good.
Yeah. And you're right. It was Snacker, the shark.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep.
So do you exclusively only play games that start with C of?
Yes.
I'm gonna ask Blizzard to change it to Sea of Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, and also Sea of World of Warcraft.
Sea of the Storm, Heroes of the Sea of the Storm. We'll work on it. We'll workshop it.
Yeah, which coincidentally enough just got a patch. I was very surprised.
It's just like the Halo Infinite. It's like a couple guys there that know what they can get away with, who still want to do something. Yeah. Yeah. So you can't complain you're not getting enough because there's someone there. It's like the lady at work. But you get into work and you go, what is this pathetic little setup for, employee appreciation day? It's like plastic covers on the tables, little party hats, and what is this, like the lamest taco setup I've ever seen? And then Susan over in the corner is crying because she decided to do this all herself with her own money. And now you feel awful. It's the few guys there that still have a passion or trying to do something nice for you. I don't think that's exactly the case in Sea of Thieves. I think it has.
No, I feel
Sea of Thieves is still doing a lot of bigger things. But here's
still their main
it
job.
could still happen. It could still be like, well, we just can't do the Meg voyages. And somebody goes, I can make it work. What if we reuse some of the stuff we used in the Lost Cargo? Oh, okay, all right, yeah, then we can do the Meg voyages. I don't want to discount that. That could still be happening here.
Yeah,
I mean, it's clear. If you look at the ship set you get from doing the Ancient Megs, it has a blue crystal for an Ancient Meg, for obviously the Barnacle Dread. It has a red crystal for the Feared Red Maw, and then it has a different crystal. I think it's like clear, or maybe it's black. Obviously, there was a third Meg, or there will be a third Meg.
Yeah.
Maybe that's gone because it was too new, too special. If they could only reuse things. I'm just saying, we could still appreciate what we have. You know what I mean? Especially in a free update. Relax.
I think
it's free.
I would not be surprised if whatever the third Meg was, based on the cosmetics, they decided that they were going to have that later on. I imagine they either ran out of time, or it wasn't fun, or there was too much going on and they couldn't do it. But I imagine that in my head canon, here's kind of where I thought things were going to go. They were going to have 3 Ancient Megs, 1 per sea, because they always ignore the roar, and it would cycle depending on like where it was. So, but I still kind of wish, and I mean, I know this is already saying, like, it's kind of scary to even talk about making Big Red harder. I do kind of wish that if it was too close, that the water around it was superheated, or at least boiling.
That would have been cool with the Red Maw.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like the Red Maw is already a really good encounter, and they've already got a lot of elements to it. I think adding more to it would. But
let me tell you why that would have been cool. Because now the water is not safety from the damage over time effect. If you're out on where the fire is, you're getting hurt by the fire. You go in the water, you get from your ship that's been leaking, you get boiled. So no matter where you go, until you deal with bucketing and putting out the fire, you're taking that DO time. There's no safety in your ship for that. That's actually kind of cool. I think they should have done that.
Yeah,
I would like to complain that they didn't do it.
There you go.
And it has to be said, this only holds some weight, but it's a free update. I mean, I think that can be used as an excuse to let people get away with things. And this is a games as a service, which kind of has different rules. You're expecting updates in a game as a service.
I think you have to. Yeah.
This is not just, hey, I can't think of what Call of Duty. Everything's game of service now, but you understand. You know what it's not a game of service. So we do expect updates. That's just the way it is. And if you don't get them, we're going to stop buying your stuff. It just makes sense, just the way it operates. still, I am appreciating it's a new thing. I'll tell you why I'm a little about this. I was talking about being diagnosed with completionism, and with there's no treatment for that. I've got broken dopamine receptors, and number go up makes me have them. So in that community, it's just no end of mocking them. Some of it, what I've done, of course, for the numbers being too high or things being difficult, like you were saying with the pristine, why isn't it 100% drop? So I'm just hearing so many complaints. I'm getting a little fatigued from it. So I'm trying to be a little more positive, give them a little benefit of the doubt, like show some appreciation for somebody who put some work into something to give it to you. And I'll have you know, I just did my final achievement, and I now have 100% achievements in the Sea of Thieves. I am certain that on this podcast, I said I'm never going to get that because I'm not doing a couple of the more annoying ones. I'm not doing 250 voyages for each thing. I've done 250 voyages for each thing. I'm not going to do 100 kegs when you can no longer have merchant keg contracts. 50 fruit, 50 wood, 50 kegs. You can only get them from mysterious journals. I'm not doing that. I've done that now. I've spent hours, I think it was about, let's say, 5 hours every Saturday for a couple months now, doing them for a community who have been hunting crates together. And shout out to Keck SOT, a true Chad who designed a whole bot for us. He's a based.
That's it. Oh.
Yeah.
I was expecting something after based.
Based on what, Caleb?
Based on he's a based developer. I know. I am.
But anyway, so all that. So I'm trying to give inject a little positivity in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
the voyages are cool. I like hunting mechs. I like hunting both the ancient and the regular. The boar hunting was okay for what it was. It's pretty good overall.
I would agree. I would say that the not looking at the obvious issues that have come in with stability. I appreciated that each month there was a little bit of an addition to the game. It did feel a little light at the beginning. All we really had was the treasured fish, and once you got 15 of those done, you were pretty much done for. Yeah,
then it was just doing raid voyages, which is just the same content with different loot.
Yeah, and I think that's that is in and of itself a shame, because I think that the raid voyages are I don't know that I like those as a means of doing stuff, because eventually
get ready, because they're gonna have Reaper loot now.
Oh, I know. Looking forward to that. Talking about the raid voyages and just how they have specific loot tied to them brings up a key point that you brought up that I think we're kind of like talking around, but I feel like we really ought to just dive into, which is the loot distribution and consistency, as your notes have stated there. There are certain ways to get some things. And as someone who is currently working on the bone collar commendations and the gift commendations for a chick, because I was smart. I got those done when they were popular. Sure. Not everyone was playing the game at that time, so it's kind of can't really call that out. But looking at like how you obtain certain types of loot, I've quickly discovered like there are certain ways to get bone collars that are easier than others. Yeah. And if you want them, the gifts, honestly, hunt down a burning blade. That's the quickest, easiest way to get a gift in the game. Same thing with bone collars.
Yeah.
But to talk to the point, you were taking note of how you get about certain types of loot, if they are consistent, if they're not consistent. But I wanted to kind of like open it up and kind of like have you break down what prompted you to start taking count of the whole loot distribution and how you get certain things.
Well, first, let me say that the gifts thing is funny, because when gifts first came out, they destroyed the doubloon economy. You got a ton of them super easy, and people were just blowing up the doubloon counts. And it's so funny to me. I think it's typical Rare that the correction of that is so hard that now it's incredibly difficult, but the numbers are still back from when it was very plentiful. It's kind of funny to me. What was the other thing they just did that with? commodities that was just, oh, you were making so much money doing commodities. Now they've made it literally not worth doing.
Yeah.
What made me do this? Yes, it's actually when you said, "Hey, kid, what do you think about just in private conversation? What do you think about the pristine stuff?" And I thought, oh well, they've kind of been doing this where you get certain loot from doing raid voyages and certainly from doing this. And then as I analyzed it more, I'm like, wait, hold on a second. And that combined with I just told you how long on a weekly basis I've been doing these stupid go find journals, read them to hope you get a merchant contract. And doing that, I realized something. If I want everyone to think right now, how do you get a villainous skull if you want to get them for the accommodation, let's say? Pause and then try to answer that question. Think about the answer to that question. And now that you've come back, and you definitely didn't pause because no one ever listens to that and does it. I've never had a video tell me pause and I've paused or go watch this thing, come back. I've never done that. I just keep watching. The answer is it's obnoxious. Things have changed here. We have really, the word's not proliferated. I can't think of the word at the moment, but we've been given so much. Things have kind of bloated a little bit here in the Sea of Thieves. And so I sat down. I tried to figure out where does all loot come from and how can you get it? Is there a system here? Is there a system here? So let's take a look at it. Let's break it down a little bit here. When you get faction treasure, this is treasure for, I'm talking about merchant, gold hoarders, order of souls. You have loot that you can get from doing a voyage or from doing a raid. It's the same loot. And this is what you might have heard called a new loot. This isn't the stuff that was here on launch. This is the things that was introduced when the new voyage system was released. I don't know how many seasons ago.
Captain's table voyages, to be clear.
Yes, exactly correct. And then the raid also has one unique item, a faction single treasure, whether it's like that orb eye thing for the Order of Souls, or I think it's called a reliquary for the gold hoarders, one of them.
Yep.
Kraken's eye for Hunter's Claw. And then there's also grade 5 emissary loot, which is its own thing. You can only get that loot from the grade 5 emissary. I forgot to look up the names. The names of these are I haven't had them as long in the game, so I haven't memorized. I think like Baron loot is maybe what it's called for gold hoarders. It's its own specific thing.
Yeah.
And then you have unique voyage loot. Every company of those companies has one unique voyage loot. So for the merchant, for example, it's the Lost Shipment, which will give you merchant crates and manifests.
The manifests.
And for the Order of Souls, it's the Armada, which will give you Skulls of the Damned. And the one special item, like the manifest here, is the Captain's Skull of the Damned. The Vault has a lot of that old loot, Captain's Chest, Marauder's Chest, things like this. And then the single item is the Tribute Chest. What's that?
Yeah. I can't think of if the Hunter's Call has this.
Oh, we're going to get there. Oh,
okay.
You've jumped 20 seconds ahead of me. We'll be right there, my good friend. And there is Ashen versions of all of these things I just talked about, except for the Armada. There is an Ashen Armada Voyage, but it just gives you 2 Captain Skulls of the Damned instead of 1. There's no Ashen of the Damned loot. Now, the Merchant has a couple exceptions. Obviously, it has animals, which are their own thing, commodities, which are their own thing. Neither of those have Ashen. And then they have the crates that I've been grinding so much, the cannonballs, the kegs, the fruit, and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Which, those you can only get from finding in the journals. You can't get them from the voyage table. You can't really do those on demand as much as you can commodities and animals. So those are kind of exceptions, which is kind of fine. I actually enjoy having your own identity to certain of them, and that's very much a merchant identity. Cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
So when they've kind of rebuilt the whole faction system, voyage system, and loot system to be in these constraints. They have those 3 things, each follow those rules. So when they introduced the Hunter's Call, it was kind of interesting to me that they didn't exactly follow those rules. Instead of having your voyage loot and your raid loot be the same, they mix it up a little bit. Now, in here you do have the voyage loot, specifically I think of doing a boar or a meg voyage. You're going to get like those chests of scales and pearls and those bags of like bait and tackle and all that stuff.
Yep.
Those you'll find in both those things, but kind of like we talked about the unique voyages, The regular voyages also have unique items. The Megs have the teeth and the scale. The Boar has the tusk. When you go to their unique voyage, the treasured fishing voyages, that doesn't have a single unique. It's just those fish, which are the only way to get those treasured fish.
Yeah.
The grade 5 emissary has its own version, like everything else does, with the ancient Meg loot. But the ancient Meg also does drop a bunch of other random loot, but that's fine. Who cares? We're still kind of in the system. And then we talked about here with the pristine stuff. There's a way to get a better version by coming across it randomly instead of putting down the voyage. Now that's unique to the Hunter's Call. It's sort of their, as I was saying earlier, it's their version of the Ashen system. It's their pristine system, and it works a little different than the Ashen system because there is no Ashen Hunter's Call loot. You can call the Feared Red Maul Ashen loot, but it isn't more valuable than the Barnacled loot. The Barnacled Meg loot. It's just it was the theme of the fish, so they put Ashen in it. That's all.
I do think that they should have had Ashen, because we do have Ashen animals that you can buy in the shop. Like I was just coming up with a name for the Ashen Owl that A Chick actually put on hers. It's Ashton Hoocher.
Awful. I hate it so much. Puns. Yeah. Why is every pirate into puns?
I don't know, because the piracy is punny.
I do have a macaw called Macaulay Culkin, so I am guilty of this.
Macaulay Culkin. Yeah,
I mean, that was my idea to give credit. I don't remember who it was, but I definitely stole that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I got my Twitch drop with the purple monkey is called Facebook Gaming.
Oh, mine's Twitch Primate.
Yeah, Twitch. See, it works. It's dumb
awful.
And it
Puns
works.
are awful. I don't know why I made them.
I don't know, but I do think that because we have Ashen animals, it's kind of odd that we don't have Ashen boars.
Listen, don't you dare add another animal. I am done with them. Don't make me do more. We're done with them. They're not pleasant to do. They're not worth money. They're awful. I hate them. I don't ever want to see them again. And on like almost every other cargo, they can be destroyed. You think they'd be worth more since they can be destroyed? But they did not follow the rules with their pristine system for the Ancient Megs. Ancient Meg drops both pristine and grizzly from the same kill. So even that, they haven't kind of stayed consistent. It's a little sloppy here. You heard the ways it was a little different. How there's unique items in the regular voyages instead of in their unique voyage. The tribute chest alternative sort of deal, and that the pristine isn't consistent. It's a little all over the place. Now Athena. We don't have to go over too much. Athena's meant to be something special, unique, and all of itself. It doesn't exactly follow these rules. Instead of having their voyage loot and their raid loot being the same, they have a sort of interesting pool that's it's like a Venn diagram, but I don't know what you call a Venn diagram with 3 or 4 of them, but it's like that where there's overlappings into 2 of them or 3 of them that they end up sharing, but it's some with their own. So
when you say them, what are you referring to?
Their voyages. I'm sorry, their voyages, their activities. So, for example, their voyage loot from a normal Athena voyage and their grade 5 emissary loot, that's the same pool. The Legend of the Veil has its own unique items. Think of that little shark effigy, things like this. But they can also include some of the normal voyage loot, only if you get a shipwreck. There'll be some among the shipwrecks.
Yeah.
A little bit of overlap there. The raid loot has all of the loot, both Veil loot, regular voyage loot, emissary loot, except the Chest of Legends, which you can find in the other places. And the Ashen Chest of Legends is the only Ashen version, and you can only get that from the Ashen voyage. So it's kind of its own thing. It has a lot of overlapping things. If you were to ask somebody who didn't play very long, who got to Athena, where do you get this piece of loot? They might not know exactly the way they kind of have in some ways, an arbitrary distinction. But I think that's kind of okay. Athena's its own thing. And they also contain loot from other factions in their Veil voyage, Up the Damned, loot at the very end. But that I think is just thematic because you're killing ghosts. I'm always okay with a little bit of thematic loot. Like when you kill the barnacle loot, the barnacled dread, you get barnacle loot. It's thematic. I'm okay that's not Hunter's Call loot. It's thematic. Why not?
It's interesting because even because we have loot that's established directly as a result of factions. Like there's loot that is just faction based. And then we have what you're going to be getting into, which is the other types of loot that is stuff that is for a specific faction, but is themed because of something that brought that loot in. So I think like in this instance, we're talking about loot that is specific just to the factions, based on the voyages that are currently available to them, and the delineation between the original 3, which is, you know, Gold Orders, Order of Souls, and Merchant Alliance. Then we have the later edition after they did this first round of updates, which was Athena's Fortune. And now we have the third iteration of their design around Hunter's Call, which has expanded the concept of how to obtain loot for that faction based on the themes for what the Hunter's Call is. I feel like with season 16 coming, that is going to change even more based on the Reapers getting voyages. Yes. Which I guess, and I must not be looking in the right places, or I must have the right people muted, because I haven't really seen the fervor of people upset that Reapers is turning PvE. Right. But apparently that is out there. And
I think it's kind of always been there. That's why it's not new.
Yeah. It's which is odd to me, because I don't know anyone who has obtained loot for Reapers solely from theft. Like, I feel like
of course, no. Most Reapers level 100s are people who did a lot of For the Damned.
Yeah. I have a feeling that there's just people who went out and did stuff to get loot, and they didn't actually steal it. You know, you can't really claim that, oh, I've never stolen, or I've stolen all of the loot that I've ever turned into Reapers. I'm pretty sure that you found something on a beach somewhere. and I'm willing to.
And I'm not saying I'm one of those. I'm not 1%er. I'm not high and mighty. I didn't do all mine from stealing. I definitely did when its introduction, way more stealing than I do now. Now a lot of it is, you know, whatever I'm finding that I have to do for the commendation.
Yeah. But I think a real good call out here is that we have set rules for at least the first 3 original factions. They shifted a little bit by blending the pools when they created the Athena Fortune build out for that, especially with the introduction of the Legend of Veil Voyage. I think that really was them trying to further the story forward, which they've talked about wanting to get back to recently in the latest podcast episode that they put out. They wanted to get back to pushing the story alongside updates.
Oh, that's right, boys. We're an hour into the podcast and we haven't even talked about their podcast or the next season. Buckle up, bros.
But to get to that point is, as I feel like with Athena, we kind of understand, like, okay, things shifted a little from the original 3. Now with the Hunter's Call, things have shifted dramatically, but it also is staying relatively thematic to what the Hunter's Call was. They're not an established faction from the original 3 that were in group and in partnership on outposts. They came in, they've kind of like, I don't know, kit bashed their voyages based on what they think the other trade companies did. Like, lore wise, I feel like you could, you know, kind of hand wave the weirdness of why theirs isn't quite in line with all the other factions.
I really like that term, kit bash. It feels like a lot of this has been them kit bashing with the new voyage system. With every time they add a new thing, what you've done is you jumped to the root of my thing before I could even articulate it. They're kit bashing. Every new thing that comes on, they've got to somehow blend it in. And when they had the new voyage system, they had a chance to make a big change, a big sweeping change, and kind of try to fit things all into a standardized thing. And it's interesting now the Hunter Call comes out and they're trying to kit bash or trying to retrofit the old things with the new things, and what can we do to make it work? And even then, when they did it, when they had maybe one of the biggest opportunities to do it, it doesn't fit in with the others. Now, earlier you heard me say I kind of wanted Hunter Calls to have its own identity. So in some ways that's cool, but they didn't decide to just do that. They did in some ways try to get, you know, what we can call factionify it with the same combinations that I talked about earlier. So they tried to do a little bit, tried to not. They tried to maybe have the best of both worlds, and it ends up what I think a confusing experience for new and old players alike. Obviously, we can kind of use the new as the straw man, as it were, to try to make your point. Like, of course, look how it hurts the children. How does it hurt the children? But let's be honest, we're the ones playing. We're talking about ourselves. We care about ourselves. It's also a little confusing for us, and for me, who has a problem, wants everything to be organized. It's a little confusing. But we haven't yet gotten to the part that I think is the strongest about this.
Mm-hmm.
When we jump into looking at what kind of other loot is there is world event loot. I'm talking about both persistent world events, if that's the term for them, like sea forts and shrines and things like this. And I'm also talking about the rotating events. They almost always have their own set of loot. The shrines and the treasuries have the sunken loot, and the fort has its own special fort skull and its own special, bone crate, bone dust, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The stronghold fort treasure chest and all that. They have their own. All these world events have kind of their own loot pools, and you can sometimes find those items in other places. For example, you can get skeleton fort loot from Megs and Krakens. You can get sunken loot from ancient Megs, as we've mentioned before. They're not always stuck in just those world events. And then there's like an interesting exception where you need to get a quest to get Breath of the Sea from those the persistent events.
Yeah,
it's sort of its own thing. It's interesting. When I think of fort loot, sea fort loot, that's a lot of the dam loot. Am I remembering that correctly? I haven't done a sea fort in a long time.
The sea fort typically has some ghostly captain stuff, which I think that I want to say that actually came in with the world event for Flameheart and his ghost ship armada.
What I'm trying to get to is that I don't think they have loot that's unique to them. I think you can find their loot in other places.
Yeah, sea forts, as far as I know, are a conglomerate, a kind of combination of different world events loots.
Right. And then we have the Kingly loot. This was introduced with the new voyage system. You can get that from emergent captains and their voyages. You can get that from contracts. You can also get that from a couple places. I think maybe only
shipwrecks,
sunken ships. Yeah. I think might be the only other place you can find them. I don't know if you heard my cat, but he wanted to have his own little cameo. It's okay, buddy. Relax. Then we have some build rat things. We talked about gifts earlier. That's one of them. Rag and bone crates. Mermaid gems, almost their own category. You can find those everywhere. I think mermaid gems are spread in more places than any other loot in the game. And that's kind of cool because, of course, they can go anywhere. They can be given to any company.
Yep.
Their own special miscellaneous.
People love taking those pirate souls.
Yep, it's true. We did learn that, didn't we? And then now we're getting into what is the crux. The first thing that I asked you, I said, where do you get a villainous bounty skull? That loot, what I want to call old loot before the new system in, it is difficult to get that in some ways. For old loot, you can get the gold hoarder stuff from vaults. You can get the old merchant crates and stuff from lost shipments. But Order of Souls does not have a way to get the old skulls. Foul bounty skull, villainous.
Yeah.
Except from getting them from contracts. And by contracts, I mean a bottle or a mysterious journal contract. Or, of course, washed up on shore.
Shipwrecks.
Or in shipwrecks,
like that.
Just we call scattered around, perhaps, might be the way. Floating in the barrels of plenty. That sort of deal. And unless you want to go to the wiki and in some cases even write the page what things have what loot pools is something that even I don't care how many hours you played, like I've played, I don't know exactly what could show up in the barrels of plenty and exactly what can't, what exactly that loot pool is. It's another thing that is confusing. Maybe they want to keep that. They want to keep the mystery of the Sea of Thieves. They don't want everything to be figured out. I get that. This is not the place for that exactly. But that old loot can be very tough to find. In some ways, some of those old achievements that want you to get that old loot are some of the hardest ones because you don't have easy access to it. I think the gold hoarders got best because they have vaults, but I'm not even sure vaults have every stage of loot. And especially I think if you do the lesser vaults, you get less items.
Yeah.
You also get that old loot from emergent encounters, skeleton ships, krakens, megs, randomly islands we mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's cursed chests, which have their own voyage from Athena of all places. You also get them from contracts and captain's orders. But let's look at one of them. That sounds like nice.
Can I really quickly just contracts for, because I think you mentioned this, but we keep using the term as if it's a common thing that most people, we usually talk about these as like mysterious journals that you find on islands or messages in a bottle.
Messages in a bottle.
Just to really point that out, just to make sure folks know when we say contract.
Good idea.
Because in my mind, a voyage is also a contract, but we also have contracts with the Merchant Alliance to get stuff. So
good point out. Good clarification. But now I've put this thing in a category, so it kind of makes sense. But these are I'm actually kind of shoving and forcing these things into these categories. Look at a chest of rage. Where do you get that from? Well, you can get it from the places I told you get the cursed chest voyage from Athena, of course, or contracts, or captain's orders, or an Ashen Fort, or an Ashen Lord, or a Fort of Fortune dig.
Yep.
You see how it just maybe that fits into the thematic thing. Well, yeah, we're killing an Ashen Lord, so you're getting a chest of rage. We've made it fit. Okay, then why Fort of Fortune dig? Things aren't
because Fort of Fortune still has an Ashen Lord at it.
Oh, you've made a good point. Don't sass me.
I'm not trying
Logan,
to.
Hey, Logan, can I talk to you over here?
Sorry.
Why you embarrass me in front of everyone like this? You know that. I just told you. I'm trying to. All right, we'll talk about this later. We'll talk about it later. Okay. So, what I'm trying to impart here, which I hope you've discovered on your own, is that they have a lot of things that are in the game that they are trying to build upon without removing. And I think. And this is such a deadly word, a villainous word in the gaming community. But I think they need to remove some of these things because it's just impossible to make a system that will handle everything that has been in the game from launch. They tried with the faction treasure, but they had to introduce completely new items. The stuff you get from the regular voyages and the raids are brand new items that they introduced with the new system. Mm-hmm. The emissary loot are brand new items they introduced with the new voyage system. They completely threw away the old ones and relegated them to the one-time unique voyages like the Vault, the Lost Shipment. This is there's just too much. We've bloated. There's too much here. We've kit bashed to heck and back, and what we've made is a very confusing system here. Where sometimes you just pass it over. Oh, I found on a island a treasure chest full of a silver goblet and a reliquary, or not a reliquary, some other trinket. I could care less for this thing, except for I have a coffer, beautiful. Except for I have a combination to turn into trinkets, and this is one of the only ways. I think, is it? I'm not sure. I guess I got to do it anyway. I'm doing it anyway. We're doing it live.
Then you have.
I think it's too much. I think we're too bloated.
So to address that directly, this is also the same development team that has left skeleton thrones in the game. This is also the same team that added such a rare event that people who have been playing since 2018 have yet to accomplish. After hundreds, after thousands of hours on their account.
Guilty as charged.
I do not foresee them going through and doing this kind of an overhaul, but you see the issues inherent with this type of a system. What we have are islands and oceans and shipwrecks and things that are constantly littered with loot. Different types, tied to different events, tied to commendations over the course of the last 7 years. And one of the issues that is apparent in the game that they've talked about in other ways is how much stuff is causing stability and instability in the game. How long does treasure float? How long does it last on an island? How long do something as simple as ammo pouches stay when when a skeleton ship sinks? Like, they've had to go in and adjust everything with trying to preserve the essence of like loot being persistent for a certain amount of time. Even barrels are a little borked right now because even the barrels that were coming from your ship would not either stick around that long or become inaccessible. Like, they're trying to shore up resources in the memory for servers because there's so much loot that I honestly don't think that I would be opposed to them saying like, hey, by 2026 anniversary, we are going to remove old world loot. You have a certain amount of time. We will then legacy those bilge rat commendations or those commendations, and anyone that gets it done prior will get another set of sales similar to the overachiever
Remember when
stuff.
they removed buying voyages, even if you've got the buying voyage commendation, it's gone. I got it. You can't see it anywhere anymore.
The buying voyage commendation?
Yeah, I think it was like buying 250 voyages.
Oh yeah, that's right.
For each company. That's gone now. Got it or not.
Is that even
So
representative?
I agree with you. They definitely should think of something like they've done in some cases in the past of, well, if you did get it, here's some sort of reward or whatever, or you get to keep your title or whatever the heck.
They did it with Arena. They did it when they shored down a lot of the commendation requirements for a lot of commendations. They gave people the overachiever sales. I would say if it is something that is going to streamline the loot concept of how to get certain things and remove items from the game that are going to improve the performance and stability. I don't know if that's, I don't know how much loot impacts it, but it impacts it enough that they're willing to tweak timers on everything else other than loot. Then I think that it would behoove them to consider something like that. I know skeleton, what are they called? Seats? No. Chairs? Thrones. Thank you. Skeleton thrones, not necessarily the biggest thing in the game as far as resources. I get that. I 100% understand. Like, trinkets on a ship, probably the thing that probably borked a lot of the server stability since they came out with captaincy. But are skeleton thrones the thing that we need to have in the game, or can the world change?
You're so hung up on them. Of all the things I think that we need to remove, I think the thrones can stay.
So, but I mean, it goes beyond that. Like, that is just the standing point. Like, is anyone going to miss skeleton thrones?
Yeah, not many, I don't think.
So if people are more lamenting like Arena, and they're willing to sunset Arena because of the impact to development, let's take a look at that as a whole. Like, they have an entire team working on stability and shorelining things for the game. Are they looking at that from the prism of where can we take stuff out of the game that is no longer as relevant because we have better ways of implementing stuff like loot?
Right. I like what you're saying. I think you're getting a little lost in the weeds on Thrones. I hate that. That's one that you can debate whether or not that's the one that needs to get removed. But yeah,
no.
My goal with this was understanding where am I going to get loot from where, and do I need to have 5 million different pieces that I'm not sure where to get them from where. But you have added a thing here about stability, which has been I think I've always heard people complain about it, but for the first time, really, I've noticed it myself without having people tell me. The stability issue. If this is something that could be a part of solving that, that could also be a good reason to take a look at this. It's just a little sloppy, is what it is, in my opinion. And I think also you have the problem of you were talking about you add new loot, you go, okay, well, do we also add this to other sources? Can this wash up on shore? Is this from a meg? Can you get this from a shipwreck? That sort of deal.
I think. In the instance of the horn, that was, I think the reason why they added it in other areas was partly because it is also a tool, not just a piece of loot. I think if they were running into that, then they would do that more often. I think, I feel like I've ran into more spears on islands nowadays. I don't know if they've messed behind the scenes, if they've messed with the spawn rate of those, but given that
they've gotten a good groove with that stuff.
Yeah. And honestly, it's going to be hard to kind of like work this out. And in the long run, and I don't envy them at all. When you look at the insurmountable task of trying to onboard new pirates, like it's I got a bad review for the podcast the other day. It was a 1-star review. The comment on it was, I'm new to the game and I need help. That was why was it
a 1? I'm not sure that tells me why it was a 1-star.
It does. I have no idea, but it made a strong statement in my mind of, yeah, this is a hard game to understand. There's a lot of history to it. And much like with the raid system, or with the raid loot, diving to world events, trying to understand like why there are emergent world events or they're not emergent world events, they're called upon world events. How do you know? Why isn't there any kind of delineation between, if I want to go for a specific piece of loot in a skeleton fort, I can't know for sure that the skeleton fort that I'm sailing to is an emergent one, or if it's one that someone dove to, until I get there and see that there's either someone there or not. And even then, I'm not even 100% sure, because it could have been another pirate on the seas who just happened to want a skeleton fort loot. And it was one of the issues with the when we had the event to give you the 15 Ashen Legend chests. The mindset that I had was, even if you dive, it is still quicker to dive to an Ashen vault or an Athena vault, because you're going to have the Athena emissary up to get the 15, the chance of getting the reputation for Athena Fortune at grade 5. Than if you were to dive to different servers to try and find a skeleton fort. Because even if you went to a skeleton fort, you weren't sure, is it emergent or is it one that someone dove to? If it is one that's emergent, then you don't know if it's going to be an Ashen Legend one or a regular one. If you go to one that is been dove to, then it's going to be contested, and you're going to have a chance of it not being Ashen Legend loot. It could be Order of Souls, because that's what the person wanted when they dove to it, and it turned out to be either Ashen Legend chests or Order of Souls junk, and which point you're not going to benefit from it either. So the best thing to
I'm a little lost. What was the point this was supporting?
So at the end of the day, the point of that event was, you should be diving to or you should be diving to Athena raids for the skeleton fort, because you have a higher probability of either getting the 15 Ashen Legends or at least Athena loot to be able to turn in with your emissary grade. If you look at just that little example of how that event was great, but you had to try and suss out, okay, what kind of loot pool is going to be in a skeleton fort? That one event, it was exemplary at showing the flaws and how there's no delineation between a skeleton fort that is a naturally occurring world event, or one that is being dove to, or one that has special loot because it's during an event. And because of that, you're just kind of left to go find out for yourself, because they clearly wanted you just to go and engage with it. They didn't think about how is this going to waste your time if you open the door and realize nothing in there is
I think I now see what you're saying.
What you're wanting.
Yeah. Wasting your time. What a great phrase there. Anyone who's played with a new player will understand and be like, put that down. It's a silvered cup. Don't worry about that. Oh, I saw shiny, and I'm really excited about collecting loot right now. That seems like a fun part of the game. Yeah, that's fine. There's about a bajillion. That might be the least valuable thing you can do right now. Is just pick up that silver cup. There's many other much better ways. Well, because the loot pool's so bloated, you have to have that conversation. Understand? There's so much loot you leave behind because the loot pool is just so bloated with garbage. It can use a little culling. Now, I could see almost everybody, not everybody. I could see people saying, and I'm almost certain it will happen if they did this. Why are you wasting time removing things from the game when you could be adding? This time you could be spending developing. And I guess it depends on whether or not you think it's valuable for all the benefits we've mentioned so far, which I think obviously it is.
I think for me, if it were to improve stability of the game by not having as much bloat loot out there, I think that is the point where I would say, like, okay, let's and I think that's what that team at Rare is trying to do. The team that's looking at the stability is they're looking for areas where there are high peaks of instability due to certain issues and trying to find out like ways to kind of shore that up. They're doing it in their own way, but I think with at least from a common, like, most people will pick up loot and they'll hang on to it if they pick it. If they happen to know the value of it, then they will. But most people, I don't think, are really tracking how much stuff is worth, because even when we had the Hunter's Call event, people were like, what do you mean this fish is worth 500,000 gold? Why is this fish worth 500,000 gold compared to the coveted chest of fortune? Or right. Like, what? How is that determined?
Well, anyone who's gotten legendary hunter before knows why, because heck, getting those rare fish, heck, it's worth every penny from how much effort I had to put in to get this darn umber splash tail to you.
I actually have the cherished trophy for the umber splash tail.
Disgusting. I've never been more upset with you. I also have gotten some of those. I don't know which ones, but when those came out, I was very mad. I'm like, if only this came out after when I had done fishing. I'm not redoing all this fishing. I have since redone a lot of the fishing.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a game design perspective. It's sloppy, and if you organize these things well, sort of shore up things to make them more of a system, then somebody who comes in, including new and old players, well, you understand one faction, you now understand how all the factions work. Okay, I understand that there's the voyages and the raids. Hey, look, it's the same way for Hunter's Call. Oh, that makes sense now. But anyone who did understand the other then jumps into Hunter's Call, goes, oh, wait, it's actually very different. So when you have these things a little more regular, then when you don't have so many exceptions, it's easier to understand and to engage with the gameplay. And don't misunderstand me. Don't say I don't think we should have any exceptions. Very happy with some of the exceptions. I'm talking about with so many. It's an inordinate amount of exceptions right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Do we need a pause? Can you hear the siren in the background?
I can, but I'm not bothered by it. But I wasn't sure if it was Noctis, because I could have 100% played that off as just being Noctis, being calling demons in the background.
I think it's done. I think it was just a one. Hey, it's 6:00. Here's your siren, which we all in this apartment complex really love.
Oh man, I don't know how you even go about that. So that kind of brings me, and granted, like, looking at how loot is distributed, there's no certain way to really keep track of all of this unless you're willing to break out a spreadsheet and kind of log where things are obtained.
Oh yeah, I'm sure people are like, Caleb, there's other places you could have gotten this loot that you mentioned. Because it's so spread out everywhere. Of course, I bet I made some mistakes here.
Yeah, you most definitely did, because you didn't even take into account the Molten Sands Fortress or any of the Tall Tales.
What have I done?
How could you?
Can I give like a quick example of the way moving forward you could sort of, instead of just having this season is the season of removing things, how you can kind of slowly and naturally implement it? There's a new video out of the new content we're getting soon, and one of the things they showed was the Cannon of Rage. Cannon of Rage could replace the Chest of Rage. With the patch notes, it also says Chest of Rage has been removed. Everywhere you could have found the Chest of Rage, you'll now instead find the Cannon of Rage, because they overlap so much.
Can I just even if I were to just like maybe even like tweak this, keep the keep the Chest of Rage, but the Chest of Rage is something that you have to feed a certain number of cannonballs to have it magically transform into evolve, if you will, from a Pokemon fan, into a cannon of rage.
I think that's a cool concept. I don't know if it fits in with streamlining things.
No.
And even maybe you don't want to replace the chest of rage. Maybe you like it. That's not my point. You may object to the specific instance. My point is showing you a way you could slowly implement it.
Yeah.
Instead of just having remove everything all at once. You could remove things little by little as it becomes relevant to.
Yeah, I could very easily something like that would be nice, where you would.
But you know what we would really lose? The worst thing about this, if we really made this change, is we lose all those cool pictures where somebody says, they've introduced a new skull, so I've now retaken my picture with every skull you can get in the Sea of Thieves.
Oh, yep.
Which, take a look at those pictures and tell me I'm not wrong, that there's too much.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I have captured a photo of just about every chest in the game for my my sub badges on Twitch, so that so that I have a slowly changing, every sub badge you get is going to be a higher quality chest in the game. So at this point, I am not opposed to something like this. I could definitely see this being as one of those things that most people would be like, there are far bigger issues in the game than how you get loot. Because I think at the end of the day, most people would argue loot's loot. If I'm getting it, I'm happy. If I'm not getting it, I'm sad. I don't care where it came from or how much it's worth.
Yeah.
But it does fall back into the mindset of, hey, there's just some loot that if you're trying to get it, gifts, it's hard to know. Mm-hmm. We used to have like a certain way that we had an event. The Festival of Giving was how you got these gifts. Yeah. And you could find them, from Emergent Skeleton Captain voyages, but that is no longer the case.
Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to join a completionist server or ask somebody who's played the game for 3,000 hours where to find something?
I would say most people probably don't think about it that much. But I would say for all intents purposes, it'll be interesting to see what, and the reason why I was bringing up the Chest of Rage comment about it, feeding it cannonballs to be able to turn it into a cannon of rage, kind of ties into season 16, where it looks like there's going to be a way to break open the seal of Reaper chests to create an AI army of skeletons to fight for you.
An AI army. Oh, we've all been waiting for this.
Yes.
With AI developments, is this what's next?
Yes. But to get into season 16, we got the official content update video for it. It's
a Rooney
tied to Reaper's rules, which sounds like such a middle school thing, like Reaper's rules.
It's a pun, don't you get it, Logan? It's got two meanings.
Oh, you gotta play by the Reaper's rules. Also, Reaper's rules.
Oh, the Reapers are ruling and they're cool. You get it, Logan? Do you get it?
Oh, it's there. It's yep. Right up there with Wild Things. So to kind of break down some of the feature list, Reapers are getting voyages. They are going to be PvEVP by nature somehow. We're not quite sure.
Yeah, I don't know if they've really clarified how they're going to be PvP.
Yeah.
Maybe just the combinations will be like shoot players with the cannon.
Shoot players with the
harpoon.
Have your
Hunter's Call. That was a PvP update, don't you know? It had a accommodation to throw it at people.
Your commendation is kill people with the Cannon of Rage. Have an NPC Reaper murder another player on their ship while you're hanging off the side.
Might as well say find an AFK player or somebody who will do this with you.
I guarantee you that is how most of us will be getting these.
That's how I got some of my bone callers.
Oh, that is 100% how I got my
found a rando just sitting at
the traps.
Outpost.
Kill players with traps. How do you kill players with traps? You have two people on the same stamp roll for boats, and then ensure that they get a ship on the same server, and then you sit around on an outpost throwing traps at each other. That is how you accomplish that extremely skilled
I
commendation.
don't often or ever, I don't think, gotten 2 ships on the same server. I have once for one thing that we
Oh, really?
did a kingly cheese. But aside from that, it's always I just go, hey, you want to get a new comm? And then occasionally people go, okay. And then, like you said, they come on my ship. I'm like, all right, we'll just throw the trap back and forth.
Yeah. Yep. That is.
You shoot the spirit at me, take it out, and then I'll shoot the spirit at you. You take it out and shoot the spirit at me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I didn't get all those through, I think, the exact combat they thought we might.
I will say all of the spear hits that I've gotten against other player ships, have all been new crews that have been parked in an island, and they're like swimming out to my ship while their ship is sinking. They're like, we gotta get, and they're hot miking, and they're trying to call out like, oh, I'm gonna board them. We gotta stop them. We gotta make sure that they don't sink our ship. Instead of like,
there's something so sweet about that.
Yeah, it's naivety. It feels good. I will say the Reaper's Bones coming in with their voyages, and they at present they have 2 categories with 2 voyages per. So 4 total voyages. They've got these kind of split up in a way that I think goes into what they've already built on with the Hunter's Call. How they are going to be using the theme of the faction to craft voyages that will inherently push the story forward. But over time, just kind of add another way of kind of going about doing stuff that you've done in either Adventures or in Tall Tales, because they've got one where you're kind of using magical relics to track down either NPCs. I'm not going to say AI. NPCs to dig up, or parts relics to help craft a Reaper chest that will eventually over the course of the season you'll be able to break open to create an army of NPC characters.
Skeleton spawner.
Skeleton
We're in
spawners.
Minecraft now, boys.
Yeah, we're making spawners. So
yeah, go ahead.
I just kind of tossing it to you. Do you think that this is a good way for them to go about expanding the Reapers? Do you think Reapers, first off, needed to have this kind of system implemented?
Much like my opinion on the Hunter's Call, I kind of like that they had their own thing. They might just do a factionification of it. We don't know for sure. At least those of us who are not insiders, whether or not they're actually going to have raid voyages and then having their own raid loot and that sort of deal. We're actually not sure. It might just be these 2 voyages, which I think in that case would kind of let Reaper have consistently keep its own identity more than the others, perhaps. But they look interesting. I like the idea. It's a Reaper thing of a PvP thing that the voyage is giving you a tool for PvP. Hey, you can have a skeleton spawner, throw them on your ship, just like with the bone callers. You can use them in some way to fight. They said that they can carry loot for you. That's kind of cool. That's a PvE thing for certain, but I really think that's who hasn't wanted to have an extra hand? It's a solo player's dream. Finally, I can have a second player without having to actually have friends. I mean, how long have I needed that? It's a cool concept.
It'll be okay. I do want to. I'm going to put this out there now, and I know this is kind of doom and gloom. But I think ever since Pirates of the Caribbean, they've been working on AI characters. No, sorry, NPCs. They've been working on NPCs helping players to accomplish things in the game that you normally would need to have other players for, but aren't always able to find that person that you can sail with, or they're just not available and you still want to get it done. But they have been working on this for quite a while. I think this is the most elaborate form of NPC that we've seen.
I mean, we definitely saw it with the Reaper, also the Burning Blade.
Yeah, the Burning Blade was kind of the first major foray into having an NPC crew. I think the Bone Callers are the the growth of having skeletons fight for you. Even if the AI I don't think is necessarily all that great, as someone who is still working on the ashen skeleton kills, but having the order of sword and blade, no, oh my god,
Blade and bone.
Blade and bone. Thank you. Having the order of blade and bone, or bone and blade, I can't remember. Have these skeletons that you can unearth to help you find treasure, to help you find or to carry treasure. It feels like what they're doing is the inevitable end of Sea of Thieves. They are slowly building out what is going to be available through Safer Seas and through the game, where if there is a point where the community has shifted over to a different game, I'll throw out Everwild as the reason why everyone stopped playing Sea of Thieves, but you can't find people in open crew anymore, or your crewmates leave. They are building an eventuality where you can add NPCs to your crew as permanent fixtures to fill in slots for roles that you would normally want filled by people, so that you can still sail on ship types that are bigger than just the sloop.
To be honest, I think I feel a little jumping to conclusions ish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? We could be going on for, this might be the first actual 10-year game.
They've never had a 10-year game, and no game has ever lasted 10 years.
That's why I said the first ever.
That's impossible, Caleb.
That promises to consistently have it.
Impossible.
With content. But I don't know. I like to come on these episodes after everything's out, of course. So this is a little out of my comfort zone. I got to see what's going to happen first. I don't know how much this is, hey, we're making it so we can sunset the game. You have your own crew now. They're AI. Especially because Reaper stuff, I imagine, might not be available on Safer Seas. We don't even know.
Ooh. Or what if it is, and this is the way for you to be able to get higher into like that level 25 for Reapers. And this is like their kind of way of introducing Reapers, so that when you come into high seas, you have a base understanding of what this faction is and why it's in the middle of somewhere.
I don't know. I just think it's like any other content drop. Just a cool new thing.
That's fair. So you're completely happy with them being able to carry loot and find loot for you? Like, you don't have to.
I've never been completely happy, Logan. But yeah, no, who knows? We don't really know how it's going to work if they can find loot just for that voyage or find any exit spot. I feel like finding any exit spot seems pretty wild to me, but who knows? We simply don't know till it happens.
Mm-hmm.
All it's confirmed is that they can find loot for that one voyage.
True, but I think that's just I think this is there's a crew.
Here's the deal: you have to transport. There's no way to transport these skeletons.
We don't know that.
You dig up the skeleton. They're not climbing on our boat. I don't see that happening.
I guarantee you, there will be. It's gonna be in the shape of a bone collar, but instead of the bone collar,
you shove them into a bone collar. Come here.
It's you just throw the bone collar. It's an empty bone collar. You throw them at the skeleton. The bone collar uncorks. A horn of winds type effect happens, and all the little bones fall apart, and then they all get kind of sucked into the bone collar, and then you walk over and you pick up the bone collar after it's wiggled a few times.
Sure.
And then once the cork like seals itself, you pick up the bone collar, you put it on your belt, and you go back to your ship.
Yeah.
And then you
say, bone collar, I choose you.
Yes.
You throw it, and then a few months later, you say, after settling our lawsuit with Nintendo, we will no longer be having the ability to fly on rideable skeletons.
Yeah. You will not be able to then go around and collect all of the different mermaid gems to become the skeleton captain.
For those listening in the future, this is a current event joke, of which is getting many, many laughs about Pal World. Everyone thinks we're very, very funny.
Yes. Also, no one is playing Pal World.
Oh, how dare you? There's tens of people. I really have no clue how many people. I just made a lot of enemies for no reason. No, I know nothing about it. I think I'm sure they're having a great time.
I will say that in the history of the last 40 years where Nintendo has been an entertainment industry in the video game making prospects, and Nintendo has like had partnership with Game Freak and the Pokemon Company, I'm pretty sure that in 30 years we will still be seeing lawsuits by Pokemon and Nintendo
for sure. But who knows? I mean, I don't know if the skeletons that come out of the Reaper chests will be the kind of crew that can serve you, that will, help you dig and move things, or if they'll be like Bonecrawler skeletons where all they do is fight. We have to see, yet to be revealed. But for what we know so far, what they revealed, I think it's pretty cool. I love I think it's a cool concept. Bonecrawlers have, in fact, won me a few fights of people who are better than me because they were stopped from jumping around the ship, which they were doing to great effect. They were, literally body blocked or had to spend a couple of their bullets on them instead of me. Certainly, I think it'll be a cool thing. I've backed off of PvP. Maybe I'll get back into it than I have in the past, but I also see I'll enjoy using it in PvE. Thinking of the situations, who it would be fun to grab a Reaper's chest, pop it open in the middle of a skeleton fort, and then start doing the skeleton fort or whatever world activity. That could probably be a lot of fun.
Oh, I can already see, just based off the video where they showed like the Reaper chest opening up and 6 skeletons manifesting from it on a sea fort, that we are going to be forced to use these things to kill ghosts a certain number of times. I can already feel it deep down inside.
I will tell you, it's going to be tough because aside from the only time I've seen that happen, actually, that's a lie. I was going to say we saw it in the Legend of the Veil Voyage. There are ghosts that fight other ghosts, but you essentially throw a fireball in there and let that work out. They don't really kill each other very quickly.
No.
And I grinded a milestone thing with a mimic dart, and to do so I took a siren skull, brought it on a sea fort, so they kept spawning and I could be on my ship, shoot a mimic, get ammo off my ship, do that for too long, for too little reward. But during that, the phantoms that were spawning on that sea fort, interacting with the AI of those infinite barnacle skeletons, or you want to call them, really didn't work well. As soon as they spawned, instead of like you know how the phantoms would rush at you or skeletons rush at you, everyone decided to walk. Long as there was a phantom and a skeleton alive at the same time, they would walk slowly to each other, and then they would be stuck because one's standing one floor above, the other one's one floor below, and they don't know how to get to each other, and they're just looking at each other through the floor and the ceiling. There's definitely, I hope they make some AI improvements, if that's going to be based on what I've seen so far.
Oh, man. One of my favorite times in Sea of Thieves was when I was looking at the commendation to go ahead and have skeletons kill their captain using,
I know what you're talking about.
The lure dart.
It's tough. Hopefully you've discovered to use the Captain Voyages.
Yes. Yeah. Captain Voyages and disguises. So that I could.
Oh, disguise.
Because
maybe Mimic Dart.
No, Mimic Dart. They still chase you. But if you,
I thought that was supposed to work. I mean, like I was doing my Mimic Dart test, and occasionally they would de-aggro me, but it was definitely not consistent.
No,
and then sometimes they randomly go, you know what? I'm attacking.
The most consistent. Here's the fun thing. The most consistent thing I've been able to find is to get them onto an island through a captain voyage, and in the longer one, not like the level. Like if it doesn't have captain in the name, it doesn't count. It has to have captain in the name. You shoot 5 lure darts into the captain, you run away, you squat down, you turn into a barrel, and you waddle around them until they eventually kill each other. If you get skeletons that have the blunderbuss, it will go a lot faster. But if the captain has a blunderbuss, kill the wave, try again, because they will murder the crap out of all of the other skeletons.
Yeah, I remember that taking so long, and I forget when you get like 4 captains in a voyage, and I'd be like, I'd be happy if 2 of these ended up dying to other skeletons before
Yeah.
they killed the rest of their crew or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sure is an annoying one.
So those are the kind of commendations that I'm scared about when they're talking about like adding new commendations to the Reapers, because some of these are just ones that aren't like, they're cool in concept. It's like, oh yeah, it'd be cool if like the skeletons turned on the skeleton captain, and but in practice it's just not not well thought out. The AI isn't smart enough. They lose interest, or they don't all de-aggro.
We'll see what happens. Hopefully they can improve the AI a little bit. We'll see what happens.
I think you mean NPC. They improve the NPC.
Listen, AI meant a thing before it means what it means now.
No, Siri, make sure you delete all memory of of your time before
like
now.
We would say the AI in a game like Perfect Dark or in GoldenEye.
AI in Halo was top notch compared to every other game back in Halo 1 days. Now we're no, I kid. I'm poking fun at here because it's one of those things that I'm not trying to trigger someone, but I am fully willing to accept that someone is going to get triggered. But
you and I watched. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
You and I watched the video together again, just to kind of pick it apart a little bit of the tease, and it was a little confusing of which voyage we're getting when. It seems clear that we're getting the Search of Ancient Secrets immediately, but whether or not the Followers of the Flame is going to come out later, or if a part of it is going to come out later, one of like the ability to like
break open
the summon the skeletons, and all that, build your own Reaper chest, if that's like part of it, what's going to happen? Are you just making a Reaper chest and then later on you can use it, or because it's not out yet, you can't use it yet, that voyage to make them isn't there yet? That was a little unclear, but it was clear that we're at least going to get the Search of Ancient Secrets right away.
Yeah. I like what they're doing with this. I think that the concepts of the voyages is really cool. It is not clear at all how they are going to be implementing these, in what ways, just with the staggered release.
We know for certain that we're not getting the ability to open up a Reaper chest until later.
Yeah.
And we know we're getting the Search of Ancient Secrets right away.
Yeah.
Those two things are certain.
Yeah. Very interesting that they are bringing the lore of why Flameheart has the orb, and what the orb means to him. Like all of the, because with the podcast that came out, he's been fed all of these stories, all these secrets from the orb. He's been
fed all these stories.
Yeah, he's been fed all these secrets and stuff. He's trying to suss out which ones are wrong, which ones are right, and he's having the Reapers go out to try and uncover more details about the ancients, to trying to determine what's going on with those. I think it's really cool that Flameheart is on this like quest to try and become the king of Sea of Thieves, to kind of find the power to be able to do that through the ancients' power, whatever they had, because whatever they had was clearly way more sophisticated than what pirates have at the moment. Like we're walking around with blunderbusses and cannons. They had magic wands, like clearly far further ahead than we were, or we are at this time. Which also kind of brings me to the discovery and creation of these cannons of hate, or hate cannons. I don't know what they're going to be called. They're going to be called
Rage.
Cannons of Rage. Thank you. Really curious to kind of find out like how the creation of these, like, are these just something that are created from Chest of Rage? Is that why they are so intrinsically tied to Ashen Lords, as they've been tinkering with the magic around these?
Yeah, what was the lore of the Chest of Rage? It was crew souls trapped and then used to summon an Ashen Lord.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And so they've trapped souls in order to create a cannon.
Yeah, or
which it seems to me that you could just make a cannon, but okay.
Yeah. Well, it can't be, I mean, it has to be magically light. You can't just carry around a cannon.
Yeah, who can just carry a cannon? That's a good point.
I mean,
I can't carry 2 silver cups. You think I can carry a cannon?
Exactly. That's the point we're trying to. 10 cannonballs, easy. Anyone could do that. 2 silver
Anybody
cups,
could do
impossible.
Anybody
Could carry 10 cannonballs.
from the skinniest pirate character to the biggest one, anybody could do 10 cannonballs, 5 coconuts, and 4 curse balls.
Look,
and 5
we all
wonder bombs,
look. Hey,
and a bone collar.
okay.
2
all
traps.
right, you know what? Every single one of us,
10 bait.
we have had
5
experience.
wood.
I don't like the way you're
A treasure
posing this. You also miss traps, I think. I feel like we've all played Legend of Zelda at some point. We've all had a pouch that carries a bunch of stuff. We get it. It's a magic pouch. We all saw Mary Poppins. It's okay. It just happens. But the Cannon of Rage, I think, is awesome. Personally, I want to know if you can interact with it, though. I want to know, like, is it something that is like, can it be something that blocks someone from getting by the way like a normal cannon will? Because if it is, I could fully see someone being like, all right, we're going to board this ship with a cannon and we're going to stick it sideways onto the stairs to get below deck. And anybody that tries to come down to repair is going to get a cannon to the face.
You know, earlier you mentioned the Horn of Fair Winds.
Yeah.
When I look at this edition, what I really like about it is it's solving something. The Horn of Fair Winds is an interesting concept. You can negate fall damage. You can swim fast. You can make your ship go faster. But in practicality, a lot of those things were sort of obnoxious to use, or there were easy ways to do it. Now I can use a harpoon gun and I can fall from any distance. When I'm going motorboating, it's on rare occasion and I can't see where the heck I'm going. Using the horn to billow out my sails, I can no longer drive anymore. I can only see sails. Do you know how many things there are to hit in the Sea of Thieves? It's really pretty full right now. So it's like, okay, it's a cool tool, but it was just a good idea. But it didn't really solve something. This solves something. There is a boring part of this game. Maybe one of the most boring parts of this game is chasing somebody and not catching them. And not even having a chance to engage and to either win or lose a fight.
Mm-hmm.
To just be behind them until either you give up or they do. Or someone makes a mistake or a Kraken decides to pick on one of you. Here, now you're like, I have a tool where I can change that situation. I can now set up a cannon behind me to rain fire on them, and now they got to choose how are they going to deal with that situation. Are they going to keep chasing me? Or are they going to try to blow it up? However, they're going to react to that. Or now I'm chasing somebody, and I can put the cannon on the front, try to knock down their mast, try to shoot out in front of them so I can board them now. Mm-hmm. Whatever other situation. We now have a solve for something. Unlike the horn, which was kind of it was an interesting concept. Now this is an interesting concept that solves something. That is something I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
And I'm also interested in, like you were saying, the way it functions. And I'm interested if we can reposition it. Or if once it's set up, it's there.
I think you can rotate it. I do not think that we're going to be able to reposition it personally. I think that's going to be a little too powerful because I think once it gets deployed, it kind of changes. It kind of changes like its shape and stuff like that. I don't think there's going to be a way for you to be able to like collapse that. If there is, that's going to be super powerful, and there's not really going to be it's going to be like a rowboat. You're not going to need more than one.
Right.
You're just going to.
I will say, I would like to see us be able to take this into Hourglass. They introduced taking the spears in Hourglass. I like the idea of taking things that can be used in PvP with you in a dive for Hourglass. So that includes the Trident, maybe even the Horn of Fair Winds. And this is another one of those tools that I would like to see go through. You can take a cannon rowboat through. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to take this through.
Because the spears at the moment are the only thing you can take through. And that's because they're purchasable from NPCs.
Well, I'm saying they're setting a new precedent of here's a PvP tool that we're letting you take through. I would like them to keep going with that.
If you could purchase them from vendors, I could see that their precedent withholding, but because I think there's something that has to be found, much like tridents, I don't think you're going to be able to carry them through dives.
I think you're probably right, but I would like for them to do it. I would like for that precedent to do
there's a solution for that.
Continue.
Actually, you have a way to do that. You just don't dive. You defend. And then you can have as many cannons on your ship as you want.
Sure, yeah. Spoken like a man who doesn't do Hourglass. Frickin' the biggest RNG in this game is whether or not you will ever have somebody joining you if you're doing Hourglass. For some reason, some servers just decide you'll never get it. and you have to dive again and then hope that server will let you do it. It is the most inconsistent thing in the Sea of Thieves, is whether or not anyone. I've literally gone hours and having no one spawn on me.
I can tell you right now that the likelihood of someone spawning on you if you're defending on Hourglass is still greater than finding the Shrouded Ghost. So
it's still 50-50. Either happens or it doesn't.
But I mean, it's still fair to say that if you are defending in Hourglass, you have all of the tools of the world at your hands.
Yeah.
Like, you're not beholden to what you can just dive with.
It's true.
Which is funny when I comment about how curse balls are like an unsaid rule to not use.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
And yet you can literally defend however you want. The problem is when you're considered unsinkable. It doesn't matter if you've set up a huge row of kegs around you, like a minefield. That's fine. But the minute you're unsinkable or use curse balls, that's a no-no.
Yeah, listen, I'll tell you when I stopped caring about that. Is when one guy called me one guy called me a noob for using the sword, and then the next guy called me a noob for not using the sword. There's no winning. Do if they've given you the tools, use them.
Mm.
If you wanted a fair fight, then you should have been. Then arena should stay. It's not arena anymore.
Yeah,
they decided to keep it in the open world. So,
or
cry some more.
Or they should just take out the defend aspect of it and have it purely be.
You're
diving.
better than me. I have a cursed cannonball. I have a chance to level the playing field. I'm using it.
I want to win, therefore I will use the tools available.
Oh, I'm going to lose this 4th streak because I just don't want to use the stuff that's in my inventory. No.
How else are you going to get to 10? Not by skill.
Never, apparently. The number of times I've gotten to 10, but I've lowered just to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, you know what? I keep lowering. I would have gotten my 10 achievement for Reaper. I already have it for Guardians. I'm going to do it this time. And then, of course, those are the times that I sink him at some point between.
Yeah.
This never happened.
I don't Hourglass, so I will never have to worry about those.
I don't much anymore now. I'm still trying to get to level 350 for the servants to unlock certain of the cosmetics.
What?
So I do it now on community days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've fallen off of it definitely after I got like most things in this game. I've fallen off it once I've accomplished the things that I can accomplish with it.
How dare you? That is definitely not the argument for every bit of new content that comes to the game after a week of it being out.
You're just mad because I can get into the Reaper's hideout and you can't.
I never said that. Also, it's dumb down there and I wouldn't want to go anyway.
It is cool that they're going to add, this is a skeleton Reaper based update and we're going to get new skeleton cosmetics.
Yeah.
That's cool. They could have easily just never released a new skeleton cosmetic. And this is the second set of new ones. I'm grateful to have.
Yeah. I'm glad that they have mimicked that across the board with the factions and then wondered how come nobody wants to run as Guardians. And
finally, we have wanted this. There are people out there who are saying, why haven't we talked about this yet? Because this is all I care about. Since Reaper was introduced, we get Reaper faction equipment.
That's true.
And we've wanted it forever. I have spent real life money on the stupid Reaper's Heart Emporium equipment because it was like having Reaper equipment. Finally. Reaper equipment. Here it is, boys.
Can't wait for that red and black shovel. That's going to be...
And I'm still of the opinion that the servant's hat should be able to be worn on your skeleton curse.
And I'm still of the opinion that if you're wearing PJs, you are going to get sunk and probably sound 13.
Oh, yeah. You should be able to wear your PJs, too. Then you can look like the servant of the flame.
I did like what I saw with the cosmetics. Like they've got a sleeveless Reaper outfit that one of the female characters is wearing in the actual like video that they put out. Looks really cool. I like it. I'm definitely up for having more stuff like that. But I'm excited for this season to see what they do with it. I'll be very curious. Yeah. I'm not one that typically likes to run around marked on the map all the time with an invitation to come fight me, because it's, I like
sure.
I like having instances where I can I get a little focused in on stuff. So I kind of like when I'm playing the game and I'm going for a commendation, I'm a little like annoyed, but I will handle it. If people come and mess with me while I'm doing that stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm just here for the pigs, people. I'm not here to like make your dreams come true of feeling like a PvP lord. Like, congratulations. I just want to murder these pigs so that I can get the meat, so that I can turn it in, so that I can get the tusks and whatnot. But I think they're going to do a good job with the Reaper faction. I think that the theming is as evident, and I'm hoping that with the cannons, people are happy, because I feel like having a portable cannon, they've done a good job of balancing the pros versus cons. Yes, you can put it anywhere. Yes, you can use it. You're not going to be able to use it all the time, but you can at least use it in a pinch. And if it takes too much damage, it's going to explode, which I think is a good way to ensure that. I don't know how someone would be able to do this. Maybe it takes damage like from cannon fire or from guns. I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, I bet it does. I mean, that's the way Chest Rage works.
That's the way Chest of Rages work. But is that going to be the way that
I hope so.
cannons of rage work?
I think it's a good design for balance of being able to have a front and back cannon. I think it's a really good idea. Not only can it be destroyed, but it'll do what seemed to be catastrophic damage to the ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it gives you a chance. Hey, they risk versus reward. I was able to outsmart them, and now because I've blown it up, I blew up their back mast, and I can catch up to them.
Yep. I think that's a fantastic way to try and balance that kind of stuff.
Yeah, really cool idea.
Because otherwise, it's like, okay, well, you have a galleon, you've got 2 on the front, 2 on the back. If you've just been out on the seas finding them, and you've got 4 cannons along the side, like it's a little overpowered. If you're in a galleon with a competent crew, to not have some sort of risk.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. My ADHD kicked in. I had a thought, had to get it out. I apologize. I wonder if a Meg can set it off. If you set it up so you have, say, 2 cannons on a sloop, so you don't have to run back to a cannon rowboat. And I wonder if the Meg bite will explode it.
Probably. My question is going to be: is this something that you can throw on the bowsprit? Because that is somewhere where a lot of PvE stuff typically doesn't target or hit too often.
It'll be like, yeah, go ahead. You can do it. If you feel confident, you can put it there. Just like with your regular loot.
You run it over and then it just explodes your ship.
Oh my gosh, imagine.
Devastating. There is a lot of lore to this that I personally am curious to hear about. I have long since become like the end all be all for lore. Like, it's been so convoluted. There's so many open-ended storylines that we just haven't seen ends to, that as far as I can tell, there are ties to the ancient widow that was introduced in the constellations for the skeleton camps. I need to go back and read all that stuff because it's been so long since I read through it that I can't even remember the relevance. But I know that Flameheart is trying to discover the power to be able to rule the Sea of Thieves, because that's where he's found full freedom. The latest podcast teased that they are going to be. They've hinted at the Maritime Union being the reason for why Flameheart fled to the Sea of Thieves.
They did.
And they also talked about how there would need to be one singular force in the Sea of Thieves that would be threatening enough to what the Sea of Thieves intrinsically is. And then brought up at the same time the fact that Ramsey, the Pirate Lord, and Flameheart are of the same mindset from 2 different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So,
go
ahead.
I remember saying, it's recorded evidence here on this show, that Flameheart's role should be the sort of Vegeta, the bad guy that you end up teaming up with.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first I've really heard of them giving me hope for that happening.
Yeah, definitely.
Maritime Union comes and they go, all right, we'll maybe we'll fight we'll fight them in their own ways, and we have whatever, all the fun things that can come through cooperating enemies.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very fun story space.
Yeah, definitely. I am hoping that the Grand Maritime Union make their way to the Sea of Thieves. I think that if they do go about that, there's two ways they could kind of go about it. They could either tie it into the Dark Brethren court, who are trying to find a way to distract Flameheart enough to gain power, or power through relics or something. They could also just use what we already have, which is the Sovereigns, as a way to show like how you're able to get to the Sea of Thieves, and they've been the mole on the inside this whole time. So
I think I once heard you talk about, hey, look, they've got tattoos. Even though they're dressed fancy, they're obviously were pirates, and this was like a concept of privateers,
mm-hmm.
of a big company getting pirates onto their side, and that was really convincing to me. So I feel like they've got to be the GMU.
Yeah, in some way connected for sure. It's definitely one of those situations where I'm hoping that they can move the story along quick enough to be able to go that, and I hope that they actually find this narrative thread that they want to explore and move through it, because I feel like since Adventures went away, there's been quite the dearth of like substantial story being told in Sea of Thieves, and I think a lot of people engage with Sea of Thieves when there is something unique about the world itself that is going to be shifting, more so than just adding new tools to the play, or the playbook, if you will. So I'm hoping that we're going to get a chance to see what actually happens if Flameheart and Ramsey actually have to partner up to try and keep the Sea of Thieves as kind of like a hidden away, or as a kind of like best kept secret from trade companies like that.
That's actually really interesting. Now, I always think about the GMU as an inevitable. We're going to see them, and we talked earlier about sort of reusing things and building on them. We've got the Burning Blade, which is a really big vessel that could be easily used sort of as a template for big GMU ships as big threats on the sea. But you hear mentioning the story going the direction of, we need to keep them out, that they don't ever get in here. That's interesting, because you've got a power of the Flameheart, he's right now attaining power. He's getting the knowledge from the ancients, and now he's like, now I can find the relics, now I can learn what to do, now I can do things with this knowledge to have power.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Ramsey, who has maybe what you could call the ace in the hole. He has the ability to interact with the Sea of the Damned with the veil. He's got the veil literally strapped to a stick. So these two, they now each have a important power, an important piece. So if we need to hide this from the Sea of Thieves, how are we going to do this? And Flameheart says, well, I've got knowledge from the ancients. Here's some ideas. And the Pirate Lord says, I can use the power of the Sea of the Damned, and they come together to combine these two important and really big movers and shakers and powerful forces on the seas to keep them out. I think that actually is a pretty cool direction to go.
And what happens is it all backfires. The Sea of Thieves is ripped into the Sea of the Damned, and the
Right.
shroud moves, and you find your way back through the shroud, and then you have Sea of Thieves 2 on all new islands, 3 biomes.
What's funny about this is right now somebody at Rare is seething because you absolutely have called out exactly what's going to happen. They are so mad at you right now. That is what's going to happen.
Mike Chapman walks into the...
They're losting this. This is lost. They're going to get here. Well, what if we move the island? Now there's just a hole in the water, nerds. We've saved the day, and now we're all ghosts of the Sea of the Damned. Wow. They're so mad at you right now. This is like the time, the Metal Gear Solid game, I think maybe the most recent one where they're on like an oil rig. In a trailer, the guy smokes a cigar, the main character Snake, and it's an electronic cigar. And from that trailer, some fans were like quoting Snake, where he's like, "I prefer the real thing. I don't like fake imitation." So people go, "I bet that's not really Solid Snake." Which, of course, was the end twist of the game. He must... What's his name? Not Hideo Kojima.
Yeah.
Is that it? What's his name?
Kojima.
Kojima must have been seething when people called out the twist of his game before it was even released for like 3 years ahead of time. That's what just happened.
It would be really funny if like years down the line, I'm doing an interview and they're like, "Yeah, so we had to go wipe the whiteboard down and come up with a whole new way of introducing Sea of Thieves 2." And that really kind of like we once we found out that was something that people were positing, we had to wipe it. That would be great.
Yep. Just give me a bucket of water, splash it on the whiteboard. All right, boys, we're starting over.
Hope you all had some coffee this morning, because we've got a whole new way of going about this that we just don't know yet.
Quick, what kind of listenership does he have?
Oh, it's like 5.
There's a certain number. If this a certain amount of people listen to it, we've got to undo it.
The 5 of them are still going. They might spread it. You never know. Caleb, I can't think of anything that we could really go to from here. I feel like we've done a moderate job of covering some of the stuff. It's fun to kind of chat. I mean, I'm sure I'd probably be a lot more organized if I'd like had notes and all this, cool stuff and thought about it more than just like the watching the video. But I knew that you wanted to come in with a discussion about the loot distribution, because I think that is something that going forward, after we see like where all of the factions coming into the Sea of Thieves have been revamped, there's an opportunity to go back and take a look at the system, see what works, see what doesn't work, and go through and try and shore up areas where legacy content is just not pertinent enough or engaged with enough to say like, okay, where can we evolve the world to shift things away from what they used to be into a new type of thing that will be more engaging? Because I think that's the goal of what's going on is we have old commendations that people are trying to figure out. They can't figure it out because the systems have changed over time. And now we just have these kind of phantoms throughout the world of times gone where we don't know how to go about loot, things like that. I'm hoping that there will be a pass similar to when they rebalanced loot the first time, that they'll be able to go back and take a look at that. I don't think that's coming with season 16. I think season 16 is going to be a lot more focused into other areas. But I'm kind of wondering, like, if you've got anything else that you wanted to jump into.
No, I think it would be a real mindset change. They've put the draw line in the sand that we're not removing anything. And the one time we did, we got so much blowback. So I could see if they never do it, then, I can understand they want to get yelled at. They want all the accusations being thrown their way.
Mm-hmm.
I would at least let hey, we've injected this conversation in the community. You guys talk about, what do you think? Do you think it's been a little bloated, a little confusing? Could it use a little shoring up? Maybe it doesn't, as much as I said was too much to shore it up. Maybe just a little bit. I think there's room there for improvement. But what do you guys think?
Yeah.
But we're talking about all the story. Well, if you guys are interested in some more Sea of Thieves story, Tide Blazers, new episode coming out this week. We're 2 episodes in, and we got a 3rd episode in, and this one's coming out just a couple months. It wasn't even a year and a half. Look at that. We're setting a new record, a new pace.
Ooh-wee.
And in this episode, you're going to interact with Flameheart. We're going to interact with the Servant of the Flame. And in the very next episode, then we're going to start talking about to the Pirate Lord, and the stories will start coming together. This is a limited series. It's just 6 episodes. So this is the halfway point. You can jump on now. It's really easy to catch up on. And I kind of build the episodes where you can listen to any of the episode, and at least that episode's a self-contained story. Like I said, I bet a lot of you guys will figure out the twist of this episode pretty quick if you're the kind of guys that lore nerds like Logan is. But Logan, thank you so much for coming on. And I guess I should mention, of course, the biggest sell of that podcast is that Logan's a character. He's a player. He's one of the players, one of the main characters. He's one of the 3 main characters. So you get to hear Logan, his pirate self, fighting against these sirens for what's that? The Reapers? How did that happen? Listen and find out. So spent a lot of time on, a lot of work on it, a lot of editing, kind of make it like a little bit of a audio drama. I bet you guys will like it. So just search Tide Blazers or go to tblazer.net. That's the letter T, blazer.net, and you can find links of all the ways you can listen. Logan, thanks for letting me come on.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure.
I love talking with you about this stuff.
I know it's fun when we get to go into weird tangents and how even when we're trying to keep things relatively like on track, we go off in weird places. But
it's for sure.
It's I'm looking forward to seeing like what we do. Some of the conversations that we have about this and just like sussing out how to do things or how many spears does it take to kill a Barney. Stuff like that I absolutely love, and I know a lot of folks talk about this stuff on a regular basis as well with Sea of Thieves too. So if there's ever anything that you want shared to the populace, or if other people have stuff that they want to share, I love these little tips, because at the end of the day I always have to try and remember that somewhere on iTunes there's a 1-star review that says, "I'm new to game, I need help." And anything I can do to help with that makes me feel like maybe I could get that up to like a 2-star rating. But thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you having the time and the energy to sit down with me and kind of craft this podcast a little bit longer maybe than just like what the official Rare podcast is doing. I can't let them put out 2 episodes, roughly an hour and a half's worth of content in one season, and not come out and talk for at least twice as long as how much they did on the same thing.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a joy.
My pleasure.